these are the you know, the app is just a name for an application, and we all you know, all or most of us are familiar with smartphones and apps. These are the apps that I have on my phone, and these are the ones we're going to talk about today. The idea for this class came to mind when the following situations actually happened to me, and I didn't know how to handle them. You know, Adam sends a call-out text containing coordinates for the search assembly point. You know, it's someplace I've never been. It's probably somewhere in the county that I've been to before. So I wondered, what apps can I use to locate and have my car navigate me to this place at 0600 tomorrow? How can I use my car or my phone navigation system to get there, particularly when it's all I have is UTM coordinates and I have to go via forest roads to get there? Or you're at a location for which you do not have trail maps and your AZ topo on your GPS does not cover the area. You know, what are your options for getting a map of the trail system on your phone? This happened just within the last month. Bob and I were just talking about the Turley Trail at Prescott, where we actually had to use a Venza in order to actually see the trails. Or you arrive on scene to an ICT search. ICT is assigning your team to search segment 9, but has no map to give you. It just happens their printer is broken. How can you receive a SAR topo map from ICT by email or text to load into a Venza for your search area? And why a Venza? Why not Gaia or other apps? Or how can you transfer a GPX file from ICT into the apps on your phone, and which ones do you use? So these are just questions I had, and I've been experimenting and seeing which apps do I need to do things with. So I've learned from ICT, from the deputies, and from each of you. So this is a compilation of what I've learned as to which apps really work well for search and rescue and which don't. Now, another question that I'm sure you have is, why use a smartphone versus my GPS? You know, can I throw away my GPS once I start using my smartphone? No, absolutely not. So I put this little table together for what we use our Garmin's for and what we can use our smartphone apps for. So the Garmin we would still use on trails for navigation and to locate subject, record tracks and waypoints to turn into ICT or email to deputies or ICT later. To view search segments, you're assigned to search segment 29. How do I know the boundaries of 29? You can do that on a Garmin or a phone. But the phone offers advantages that the Garmin GPS units do not. You can view forest roads on phone or iPad apps. You can import SAR topo, what are called geospatial PDFs, also called geotag PDFs. These are PDFs that the deputies send out that when you put it in the right app, it'll actually locate you on that PDF and it'll trace you just like on any map or your GPS. So it's called a geospatial or a geotagged PDF. Can't do that on your Garmin. With apps, you can navigate on roads with your car or 4x4. You can get route guidance to your destination. You can have access to new map data in the field with your phone, assuming you have cellular service. You get more detailed trail and road maps with your phone. So there's differences, you know, like you have different tools for different things in your life. You know, the Garmin is one tool, and phone is another tool. And Peg Cook, I just got a text from Michelle Warburton. She's trying to log in. It says waiting for host. So would you check and let her in? The battery life, the key thing with the phone is battery life is critical to maintain on your cell phone. The first and primary use for your cell phone is for communication. You don't know how long you're going to be out there. You don't know how long your iPhone or your Samsung battery is going to last. And the last thing you want to be is you're out there 8 hours and then your phone is not, doesn't have any battery life because you've been using it for navigation. That's happened to me. You know, my phone that normally will last 24, 36, 40 hours, just using it as a normal phone and searching on web, went down in 5 hours when I use it for GPS. So it's a constant GPS pinging of your phone that actually uses a lot of battery. So your phone is primarily for communication. You need to preserve the battery. Secondary uses for navigation. However, they're extremely useful and more useful than your Garmin at certain times. So they're more for spot use, I would say.
Tim, can I say something?
Yes.
The phone used on trails for navigation and locate subject, I used my phone and I used the Avenza app, and it worked really well for that Turley Trail.
Yeah.
So I would put an X on under phone for that.
And I can agree with that, with the caveat that what I put here is for our primary use for search and rescue. And so because of battery life, I'd rather we use our Garmin's for navigation, locating subject. However, when it won't work, like that Prescott search was the perfect one, Bob, where it wouldn't work. That's when we had to use the phone.
Yeah, and that was really helpful to have that map on that search on the phone, because I was with Peg Cook and we were both hiking. She was using her GPS and her Garmin, and I was using the Avenza, and I found the Avenza far better in detail on the trails, and the Gaia, whatever you want to call that, map also gave me really nice detail on the trails.
Yeah, and the Garmin's were essentially worthless.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. So see, you have to make your own decision at each time what's the best tool to use, with the caveat that if you're going to be out a long time, you need to be aware of your iPhone battery.
Tim?
Yes.
Can I ask how many people use a tablet on the team?
I would say that would be 0.
Okay.
Unless you're in a 4x4.
Okay.
The
I thought I saw, is it Zach?
All the 4x4 units have to have a tablet with them.
Yeah. And yes, it's not Zach, but Xander.
Xander.
In backcountry has his iPad on his back belt. You're right. However, 0 people in the team, 0 of the hikers use tablets when we're out, just because of size and battery consideration. But every 4x4 person, every 4x4 observer navigator uses a tablet. Okay, so what I want you to do is actually, these are excellent questions, and I want you to pop in, just unmute yourself and contribute or ask a question when you can.
Tim, this is Alan. I was just going to say the battery packs for iPhones or Samsung phones are very inexpensive right now. You can get an extra battery pack just to have, just in case of emergency, you know, if you need to communicate and your phone goes dead by any chance.
Yeah, and the battery pack for
Tim,
phone.
I carry an extra battery pack for mine. If I'm out in the field, I can recharge my phone in a matter of about an hour and a half.
Yeah, those are excellent ideas. And battery packs can be on Amazon for anywhere from $30 to $120, depending on brand and how long they last. You can get those. In fact, I bought one for my iPhone battery pack because it was so useful to me, and I'd experienced losing my battery phone life just normal. And so for those critical times when I'm out a long time, I also have an extra battery pack for my smartphone. But the main gist of this is the Garmin GPS will still be our primary unit for the basics, but it is the basics because smartphones can do so much more. We can't transfer to ICT yet with our smartphone. GPS will last a long time. So it's like a tool for each time, and you have to determine what your circumstances are. Hey, Peg Cook, did you let Michelle in and others that I hear coming in?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay, good. Okay, so I have one page for each app, and this page is not all inclusive. It's a summary of my thoughts on the app. And then we're going to go through them, and I'm going to go through each one, I think, of the 5 or 6 pages, talk about the app, and then we're going to go back and actually demo the app. So first we'll talk about them, and then we'll go back and demo them. So Gaia GPS, you know, it's multi-featured. I think it's one of the best. You can import GPX files. You can view track and waypoints on maps. You can download Forest Service maps. And Mark, as you know, the Forest Service maps are critical for Forest Service road navigation. You can also download National Geographic Trails maps, which is a really good trails maps. You can download those for offline use. You cannot import a geotagged or geospatial PDF. So if the deputy sends you, here's your PDF map of your segment search tomorrow, you can't download it into Gaia. It has no capacity to do that. That's where you use Avenza. Gaia is, I think, the only navigation app other than Google and Apple Maps that is enabled for CarPlay. So you can actually, in CarPlay equipped automobiles, see 4 surface maps, National Geographic Trails maps, or any other map you can download on your car display. There is route guidance for car travel to named trails. Like you want to get to Airport Loop, you want to get to Fay, you say, take me there, it'll do that, but you can't really use it for navigate to anywhere else, like to addresses or waypoints. So I think the best use is to navigate on 4 service roads or Net Geo maps, so it can be used for roads or trails. I really like Gaia. I think it's one of the best apps.
Yeah, I'll second that, Tim. I use it on Apple CarPlay and I use it on my phone. And in order to download maps of Gaia, you have to have a membership, and it costs $40 a year.
Yep. There's 2 levels of membership. One is like 20, one's 40. The 40 is what you really need to get the good maps for us. Okay, Avenza. It's called Avenza Maps, and it's called Avenza Maps for a reason. It's primarily an app for map display. You can import the geotagged, the geospatial PDFs from Sartopo that the deputy or ICT sends. It will place your location on the active map. It has hundreds of maps for free or for purchase. But the key thing with Avenza is you have to have the map. You have to have the map on your device. You can download it in the field if you have cell service and the data plan, but you got to have it on your device first before it's useful. I don't recommend it for use for car route guidance. It opens in a third-party app for route guidance, and it's really a map display app. I find other apps are more useful for everything else we would do, and Avenza is really only a map display, but it's extremely useful for that. Bob and I were and several of us were down at Prescott on a trail system called Turley Trail. We talked about it Monday night with the autistic male that was lost. And all the trails that Deputy Slay asked us to search weren't on our GPS. And he pulled a paper map out of his car and said, well, here's the Prescott Trails. You can probably download it or take this map. We found that Prescott Trails map for free on Avenza, downloaded it in the lot, and that was how we navigated for the rest of the morning. So best use is for downloading a map, seeing your location, and navigating on a Sartopo, on a trail, or a road map. This is an example of an email you would get, and I'll show you how to do this later. This is from Terry Cook, ICT. Adam, if everything looks good, I have some geotag PDFs ready. This link then would take you to a geotag PDF within which you could download on Avenza, and you'd have it for your search area. So I'll show you how to do this later. MotionX GPS. We were introduced to MotionX when we underwent 4x4 training with the navigation training with the 4x4 unit. And we loved it. You know, I love it. I love it for 4x4. It's one of the best for navigating on forest roads. It's not very good at all for navigating on trails. There are apps that are so much better. Now the MotionX, there's an iPhone version, which I thought was available until Alan tried to download it for Al this morning and couldn't find it. And the iPhone version is now no longer on the iPhone App Store. The MotionX GPS HD is the name for the iPad version. It's also no longer available to download and no longer supported. So if you've got legacy versions of this, you're in good shape until iOS updates make them invalid. So we need to be looking for an alternative for MotionX. Okay. Heidi just informed me that chat has 2 comments. Let's see. Chat. Okay. Mark says he has over 100 maps to download for events at a Dropbox for searches. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark. So if you see chat, I don't see them, bring them to my attention, please, because I don't see them. My screen's full of PowerPoint. So back to MotionX GPS. Absolutely the best for 4x4 navigation, but I think we'll have to find an alternative. The alternative might be Gaia or it might be CalTopo. Okay, I'm leaning more toward CalTopo. Has a variety of available maps, some of which can be downloaded for offline use. It's really not good for trails. There's no route guidance for car navigation. The navigation is as the crow flies. There's a straight line from where you are to the point, and it doesn't really help you determine which roads to go there. So the best use is for 4x4 navigators. Excellent road travel app. All Trails. This is an app that provides info on individual trails. If you want to know what trails are closest to you in Prescott or Sedona, you can find out. If you want to know how everything about Bear Mountain Trail, it will have the trail. You can record your track on the trail. It'll have reviews of the trail. It'll also have weather for your day of hiking. They're good maps. You can record your tracks, have weather reports and reviews of individual trails. I think it's excellent for your own use with individual trails. You can locate your position on the trail. You can filter all the trails by hiking, by mountain bike or 4x4. For example, it has 500 trails in the Sedona area. It has 400 mountain bike trails. If you filter by 4x4 or off-road vehicle trails, there's 100 of those. There's very, very limited forest road info and only that's adjacent to trails. So my view is this is limited use for VSAR. It's good if all you need is a well-defined single trail info and map. And again, I'll show each of these to you. Now, CalTopo has a lot of promise. It's an active app. In other words, they are updating it on a frequent basis. It's the app that links SAR-Topo to your device. It's very powerful when you use SAR-Topo. It's the link to ICT maps. You can utilize downloaded maps for offline use. It's excellent to use for navigation and IT search segments, but I'm not going to discuss it further today because that will be bundled with the SAR-Topo training that's scheduled for next week. CalTopo really goes with SAR-Topo. They're a pair that needs to work together. Google Maps and Apple Maps. These are the apps to use for car navigation. To use them, you convert your SAR assembly point coordinates or the UTMs where you need to go to decimal degrees. You use your GPS for conversion because you're going to want your UTM, you're going to want your assembly point or your subject coordinates in your GPS anyway. So I recommend you use your GPS for conversion from UTM to decimal degrees. Once you get the decimal degrees, you type those into the search field either in the computer Google Maps or the computer Apple Maps or the similar apps on your phone. You'll obtain directions from your home to the coordinate location. One caveat I got to tell you that counts for many of these things is verify that the location makes sense. And I mean, I would not want your car to be taking you to north of Flagstaff when it should be taking you to Cleator Yacht Club, for example. And just a few differences in the numbers can do that. Once you type your decimal degrees into Google, that's the one I'm going to use, you can transfer directions directly to your phone from your Google on your computer by text, email, or by wireless. And the phone app will enable car navigation to your search and rescue location. This is pretty neat, and I'll show you how this works. Okay, so those are the apps we're going to cover. Now we're going to go back to Gaia and actually demonstrate that. Any questions before we start again at Gaia? Okay, so again, Gaia is the multi-featured app. Has multiple maps. You can download maps. Our Apple Arcade CarPlay enabled, but you cannot download geotag PDFs. So I'm going to stop the PowerPoint now. and go to actually the phone.
And Tim, while you're doing that, can you export your tracks from Gaia or just import them?
I found
to know.
that exporting from each of these has been a bit problematic so far.
That's what I've had a little trouble with too, so, okay.
I haven't found the perfect app for exporting, but you know, I do that all the time with our Garmin, and I haven't needed or wanted to do it with an app, so I haven't pursued it.
Right, and that's one of the main reasons to ensure that everyone does still utilize their Garmin for their primary track recorder to then send in as we need to.
Okay, so now.
Tim, quick question.
Yep.
Will we get copies of your slides?
No, they're top secret, Stephen.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes, of course we'll get them. Yes, we'll be sent out right
Okay,
after.
perfect. I just didn't know how much detailed notes I need to take.
You can take all the notes you want because the slides don't say everything. Okay, so here's my apps.
Okay.
Here's Gaia. Now, can you see an iPhone app on your screen? Okay, good. So the here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you things on the and I can figure out my system here.
I might add, if you have a pro account to Gaia, you can download maps for offline use. So when you don't have cell service, you still have the maps on your phone.
Yeah. So once I get set up here, I'm going to actually show you. Can you see like a red box on your screen now?
Yes, yes, we can.
I guess there was a bit of a delay. So this is the Gaia interface. Okay, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so this is layers, and when you touch layers, you get to see, you know, these are actually all the maps that I have downloaded on mine. And you see an inactive here and an active. And I'm going to show you the value of that after we do a tour of the app. This is how you can add waypoints or download maps. This button centers you. And so, for example, let me go over to Capitol Butte, and I want to be centered. So I tap this app, and there we are right at my house. Okay. This app, larger screen. Down here, this is what we're on now, basically the map view. This Discover is probably similar to All Trails in that you can actually see popular hikes near you. And I'm going to click on Bear Mountain. And then you see actually, here's the Bear Mountain track. You see the distance, time, difficult. You can see reviews. If you click on this, I'm clicking on the show on main map right there. And there's the track up on Bear. Now let's say I want a different map than that though. So then I go up to map layers up here.
Gary has a question.
Yep, what's the question?
Tim, at some point in time, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, would you mention whether or not each app is free or if there's a cost? And if there's a cost, which option should you elect?
Sure, okay. There's two options. One is $20, a free option that offers you can track yourself and see a basic map. There's a $20 option that offers a certain level of maps you have access to. If we're going to use it in search and rescue, you need the $40 a year option, because that's how you get the Forest Service map and other trail maps. Okay, I'm going to go up here now. So this is Bear. I want a different map on here. I'll type that. Notice I have an active set of maps here, National Geographic Trails and United States Forest Service 216. By the way, this is the map that's key for all forest roads. And right now, if you look in the background, I'm going to hit done. This is the map that we are talking about. So you can zoom in. These are forest roads. This is Forest Road 9583. Most trail maps do not have that level of detail. And this is the same map that we're using on MotionX GPS for the 4x4s. That's why this might be an alternative when MotionX GPS actually loses support, and it's the one we might move to. I'm going to zoom out again now. And let's just look at what a different map looks like. So I'm going to go up here to the layers. I tap on layers and I get this. And notice you can barely see a slider bar here. That means National Geographic Trails, I could see it, but it's actually what's called zero transparency now. When I touch that, look at the background and how it's changing. I'm going to go to 100%. I want to see 100% of the Nat Geo Trails. I'll go up here to tap done. And look how the map's changed. By the way, there's still a forest road notation here. You've got, there's Bear Mountain Trail, the Canyon Trail, the Arch. So this is a very, very useful trail. Let's look at it. It doesn't have all the new trails like out in here, but it's got probably Trail 204, Rupp Trail, Coxcomb Trail. If I hit my, where am I at? I can hit the center, like geolocate me, and it goes right to my current house. See the trails. Now I want to go back to Forest Service. So I tap this. You can see Nat Geo Trails is 100%. Oops, I'm annotating. Oh, I'm trying to move it with my mouse. I can't do that. So as I go down, you can see the background. The Nat Geo Trails goes away and it becomes replaced by the Forest Service map. I'm going to tap done again. And there's the Forest Service map. Notice the Forest Service map doesn't have the trails that Nat Geo did. So there's no trails back, behind my house like there was before, but there's forest roads. See, there's a forest road with a forest number. Let's go back over by Bear. There's, Bear Mountain. And it's just a very different look, Let me show you some other maps. I'll spend more time on Gaia because I think it is actually one of the best for us. See these inactive maps? Let's move this one, satellite with labels. Let's move it from inactive to active. And so what I do is I tap the green arrow and it goes to the top. Now it's up here. And you also see there's a slider bar. I'm going to increase that slider bar over to the right, that's 100%, and type done. Now you see a satellite view that's labeled. Bear Mountain, there's the trail. It's actually it's Airy Trail, Airy Trailhead, Coxcomb. Let's see how detailed it is in the maps down in this area.
Another question from Gary.
What's that, Gary? Gary, you're muted, I think.
Tim?
Yeah.
I was not asking a question, but I had another one I could ask, and that is, how good have you found cell phone reception out in these rural areas when you're trying to say, drive to a location? Has cell phone coverage always been satisfactory?
No, cell phone coverage is not always satisfactory. You can't count on it. You're gonna have to make a judgment depending on where you're at. If the way I'm going to show you later a technique, you can see where you're going to be located and how distant it might be. And you can make a guess about cell phone coverage. I would say 50–70% of the time I have cell phone coverage. There's been some critical times that I haven't had it though. I haven't been able to call the deputy, and I certainly couldn't download any maps. So it's the kind of thing that you have to predict where you're going to be ahead of time, and you have maps downloaded. Like many of us have already downloaded maps for nearly all of Yavapai County, and we have them in our offline just for that.
Tim, since I have a pro account to this, to Gaia, I have maps downloaded to the phone for most of Arizona. It doesn't take that much room on your phone. And so you can use those maps without cell phone coverage.
Yeah, so Bob has them downloaded for most of Arizona. I have them downloaded for all of Yavapai and some surrounding counties. It does take time to download them, and it takes a little time with maybe a glass of wine in the evening or coffee in the morning, but you can download all the maps that you think you're going to be needing prior to going out, and then you don't need any cell phone coverage. That would be another lesson. I won't teach you how to do that here, other than up here, this is the plus, A plus, I want to add something. Right here is the download maps feature. And you follow that, and you can experiment and maybe try downloading Nat Geo or some of the Gaia maps. Okay, so going back to this satellite map. Now it does have, there's outer limits. So it does have some of the trails. Sometimes when you're out and you want to go and you need to go off trail, the satellite maps can be very useful saying, hey, there's a social trail or there's another road that's on the map, and you can actually zoom in and see it. For example, there's a road and a pipeline there that would be on a Forest Service map, that if you're out here on outer limits, you can see that road may get you over, for example, over to the Bolo area. So that's the use of a satellite map, okay? I want to go back to Forest Service. So I want to go up here to layers. That shows me my layers of maps. You see here in my active and my inactive. I'm going to make my satellite inactive. So I'm going to move this over. You can see the background changing here back to the base map, which is the United States 2016. Other maps here are also good, like Outdoors has good trails on it. Gaia Streets is what I'd use if you're trying to navigate downtown Phoenix. It's a very good street map. And then say done again. Let me show you another feature here. So this is saved. Saved what? So let's see. I click on saved, and there's a track. This is the Jeep Posse track that I downloaded for the Baton laundry search. This is Brian Hager of Jeep Posse, and this is his track. And I downloaded that as a cluster so we wouldn't research what he'd already done. As I go down, this is actually 1.1 gigabytes of a CalTopo map. In this area, here's a Cleater waypoint. That was actually for a Turkey Creek search, so let's look at that. Click on it. Here's actually, then you can click on that map. Show our main map. And there's the waypoint for the Cleater Bar and Yacht Club. And down here is actually the search area that Deputy Barton sent out. This is that 2-mile diameter circle. This is where the human bones were found. And this is what one team was searching upstream, and this is what another team was searching downstream. You zoom in on this. You see the Forest Road 101 that the quads took us down. You can actually see, so you can see there's an immense amount of detail on the Forest Service map there's really no trails, or minimal trails. I'm gonna go back to saved. I'm gonna go back up here to saved. As I go down here, that's the House Mountain GPX that we did a 4x4 training the other day. I'm going to show you now how to load a GPX file into Gaia. So I want to go back to map. I'll touch map. And I'm going to go to my email. I'm going to escape this. Go to my email because one of the deputies has sent me a GPX that I need to download, so I have it in my email. So this is I sent it to myself today, but this is any GPX file that you would get by email. This is how it works on an iPhone. The Android phone I don't have experience in, but it will do it in a somewhat similar way. And this is something you'll have to experiment with. So I'm touching. I'm actually, I put my finger and I touched the GPX file. I'll do that again. So I don't tap it, I do a firm press on it. And this menu comes up. It's open in, so I'm going to tap open in. The screen comes up. I could send it to Alan by text. I can send it to Chuck, to Dave McCoy, or I could send it to an app. Move my app, move this over. And there it says copy to Gaia GPS. So I'm going to tap that, but first I'm going to tap more to show you if Gaia wasn't here, you tap more. And you see a whole list. So I can copy to Gaia, copy to Motion X, copy to Avenza. I wouldn't do this. It doesn't seem to work on the iPhone version. I think it's a bug in it, which is no longer supported. I wouldn't do this because GPX and Avenza maps haven't been useful. It's really complicated. I can't actually see the GPX here, but this works wonderfully.
And I will say, just to interrupt quickly, that on the Android types, even on the iPad, I have been able to copy to Motion X without any problem.
It works on my iPad, but not on my phone for some
Yeah,
reason.
okay.
So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back here to done. And remember how we got here. So I'm going to start it again. So I got this email, got a GPX on it. Do just a light tap. Go down here, open in, and you can email it to someone or text it to someone, or you go down here. These are all other apps that are on the phone. I'm going to tap copy to Gaia GPS. It goes right in and says all imports complete, but then you wonder, where is it? Where is it? So actually put it in your saved folder here. So I'm going to saved. It was called Sartopo. So I'm going to go down to the S's. I'll go slower so you can see that I have, these are my Geo maps I downloaded. So Red Tank GPX. And look, that's the one I just downloaded from the email right there. So now I'm going to tap on it. It shows me the trail on a map. If I tap on this screen, I'll tap on it. Then I get detail, when it was taken, the distance. This is actually a search we had in, it should be Keyhole Cave. I mislabeled it. In Keyhole Cave, which is just north of West Sedona. There was a hiker lost up in the cave we had to go get. But you can see it was in November 17. I click on this, say, well, I want to see that map. I want to add it to my Gaia. So it's showing my map down here. Okay, and there it actually is. So here's Sugarloaf Trailhead, and that's the GPX trail that we took up to Keyhole Cave with backcountry because we needed ropes to get the guy out from up on top in the cave. So you can see that we just downloaded a GPX from an email into Gaia. We can use this now if we need to follow our way to Keyhole Cave. You know, Bob could send me a track anywhere he's been, for example.
Bob
Yes,
Kenny
sir.
and a couple other people have had some questions.
Okay. So if you got questions, why don't you just unmute yourself right now and ask your question. Bob Kinney, did you have a question?
Quick question, Tim. Have you ever used Trail Forks?
No, I've never used Trail Forks. Is that
It
one that
seems to be the most. It seems to be the most accurate in terms of the recent trails, especially the Western Gateway area.
Okay. Who is that speaking, by the way?
That's Mike Harris.
Mike Harris, okay.
Mike, what is the name of that app again?
It's called Trail Forks. It's driven by the users, usually hikers and MTBers and equestrians. And whenever a new trail comes in, they ask that it be added to the inventory. And it seems to be fairly accurate. When you're walking it, it seems to be extremely accurate in terms of positioning. So I've been using it quite a bit lately.
Thank you very much. This is Gary. Thank you.
Any other questions? Bob Kinney, did you have one?
Well, I do.
Okay, Ann?
Well, you just sort of touched on it a bit, but I've had this downloaded and having trouble figuring out how to get the maps in the area that you kind of have to spread out. You have a cursor that spreads out, so I guess you're gonna kind of go over that to actually figure out how to download this and name them and all of that. I mean, that's what I can't figure out.
Yeah, and I won't do that today because this is the coverage of multiple apps and not any details into any one. You would go here.
Right.
Okay.
And a box comes up and just, right, the download maps, but how do you know what you're downloading? It comes up and it shows, yeah, right, that thing. And then how do you just keep spreading it out until what? You get.
We'll have a separate session for that, okay?
Okay, good. All right.
Tim, I had trouble unmuting myself. My question was, I think you showed a screen that had one of your maps as your base map. Do you get to define which one is your base map?
Oh, yes. Okay, let's go over that. So to get to the multiple layers of maps, you can go up here. I'll tap that. And this is my base map. And Bob, you're asking, well, how do you make, how do you choose what's your base map?
Right.
Kind of like the first one that you put in. So I'm going to tap that X, make that go away. And now Nat Geo is my base map. Okay, so if I went US, the Forest Service 216 back up there, I'm going to tap here in the green arrow. I want it to go up. And it's no longer my base map, but still Nat Geo. So it's kind of like whatever one is at the bottom becomes your base map, Bob.
So it's basically the first one that you put in that list.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And so if you wanted to change your base map, you'd have to basically remove things, put in your base map, and then put back the other ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, let me say something. The 3 lines that are on the right side of each of the entries, those are movers. So you hold on to that and you can drag it to whatever location you want.
Oh, very good. That's useful.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi. See, I didn't do that.
So Tim, you're going to let us have another class on how you get that US Forest Service 2016 then.
That would have to be a bonus class, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I need to know. Yeah, because I mean, I've been trying to get all this stuff on here, but I was up at Horse Mesa and I thought I had it downloaded and it was just a big blur.
Okay.
So it didn't show it. So obviously I didn't do it correctly, whatever I was supposed to do.
That'll be a bonus class at only slight additional cost.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's enough of Gaia. Let's go off Gaia. And I'm going to close Gaia. And the next one we're going to go to will be Avenza. So I just want to refresh your memory about Avenza. Avenza. I think you can see Avenza on the screen right now. Yeah, there we go. You recall Avenza is primarily a map for map display. This is the one that I think the only and the main use of Avenza for search and rescue is downloading those geotagged PDFs. And I guess there's two uses: downloading the geotagged PDFs and having the maps available for really excellent trails when your Garmin GPS is not good, like the Prescott Turley trails that Bob and I were talking about earlier. Okay, now let's go to the phone app and look at it. I'm really getting good practice in multitasking. Let's see, sharing is paused. There we go. I go to my navigation folder. I get Avenza. Okay, and this is basically Avenza. It's, and you notice it says My Maps. That is the main use of Avenza. These are maps that I actually have on my device. They're downloaded. I don't need cellular service to access these because I've actually, I've either downloaded free maps or I purchased some trail maps. Here, for example, is Prescott Trails and Recreation map. And Bob, there's the Turley Trail that we were looking for the autistic gentleman on. And this trail system was nowhere on our Garmin, our AZ Topo. And this is the map that actually Deputy Slay showed me. Hey, here's a paper map. I think you can get this on Avenza. If you can't, you can take my paper map if you're on the trail. Well, at the trailhead, we had cell service. We both had Avenza. We downloaded this map. It was free, and I'll show you how to get those later. But this is an example of where we actually started up here at the Wells Fargo Road. We could trace ourselves. It'll geolocate you on this map. And it'll also show at the bottom, your current coordinates. If you want to locate yourself, you would tap this. Now, when I tap that, it goes nowhere because the map of Sedona is not active. It won't take you automatically to a map of Sedona. It'll only show you your location if it's on the map that is active. So let's go up here, out of Prescott. I do have a Sedona map. It's right at the bottom. These are all other free maps that I've downloaded just in case I'm in that area and I need them. Each of these are relatively small areas, like 20 square miles, 8 megabytes. I'm going to zoom now, so avert your eyes. I'm going to zoom down to the bottom, which is where the Sedona map is. Here's the Sedona Trails map. Here's the Red Rock Ranger District, off-road vehicle routes. Let's look at the Sedona Trails map. I'm going to tap it. And actually, I'm going to tap this. Where am I on this map? Now it takes me to my home because I have a map up, and my location is also on that map. And notice when I tapped that before in Prescott, it didn't do anything because I was in Sedona. I wasn't in Prescott. So that's,
Tim?
Yes?
On my app, when I tap the arrow, mine is actually saying where the coordinates are. It says not on map.
Okay. Yep. Okay, mine doesn't do that. Maybe it's a setting. But you can see with the Sedona Trails map, there's very good trails. Skywalker Trail, Herkenheim. Here's the some of the newer trails. Last Frontier. I don't see Outer Loop on here. So they're not all perfect. This is actually, you can see Sedona Trails map. This is the digital view of the Sedona Trails map, which I believe most of us have. So very useful, but you have to have it downloaded on your phone or have cell service to download it if you're out there.
Tim, do any of these applications alert you when your current map is out of date, the one that you've downloaded?
I haven't seen that they do. It's like, Bob, you have to keep checking. Let me revise that. They updated this motor. They updated this motor vehicle use map. Instead of a north and a south, they had one that was overall. And I believe I did see a notification for that, Bob. Okay. But I had to go into the maps and see it, and then see it was flagged that there's a new map.
Yeah, when I look at this is Peg Kern. When I look at my maps, I do have some that say contains maps with updates. So it is alerting me that I need to, but I had to go there, as you said, to know to update it.
Now, the other thing I want to share, so this is a way to display maps very excellently, and it'll geolocate you on these maps. In order to get maps, you have to go to the store. So you go to the store. You know, it's loading maps for this location. It's looking up your location, searching for maps. And here's maps that would be useful for this area. You notice this one is, this is actually a series of multiple maps here, and it actually shows you, there's no detail. It shows you that, okay, if I need this area, I need map number 22. It's free. This one, Aquafria, it was free. This means I've already downloaded it because it says open. Here's one that Bob can buy. Okay, $129. This is very detailed maps of basically, well, let's click on this and you can see. So I think it contains 129 maps. So it's actually cheap, $1 a map, right? This shows you that this covers 129 maps from south to northern Arizona. So that's an example of one you could buy, like if you're hiking across Arizona. Now I'm going to go back, so go back. There's a number of free maps, a number of 99-cent maps. So this actually, it searched, he knows we're in Sedona, and it looks for maps in this area that would be useful to you. If you were in Utah, it would search and give you Utah maps. California maps. But you have to.
Do you know, I think if you're using the free version of Avenza, you can only download so many maps. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, Peg, for that. If you can get Avenza for free. Avenza will allow you to use 3 maps. You can download 3 maps. And I think in order to download number 4, you'd have to delete one of the first 3.
That's what I've done. Yeah.
I think it may be $20 or $30 for Gary. I'm not sure.
It's $30.
$30. Okay. This enables you then the full feature. You can download as many maps as you want. Okay, so it's basically a SAR, a map display device. Let me show you now. This is actually that 380A. That's a typical numeric designator for a SAR topo map. I'm going to click on 380A, and there's a map that they sent us for the last, the Chino Valley evidence search. I'm going to show you now how to download a map into Avenza. So I'm going to click Avenza. I'm going to go to my email. And I have a map in here from Terry Cook. So Terry says, here's tomorrow's ground search segments for print or Avenza. And there's 3 maps here. One is 380A. You can see that we're going to do 7S77, which is just a random number, sequential number that SAR topo gives the map generation. So I tap on it. Now downloads the map from the SAR topo web server. There it is. Okay, so this is actually the same map that you would print out. There's the incident command post for the this 89 on Drake Road. Here's segment 28. And it just so happened on that morning, VSAR was assigned segments 27 and 28. And 28 is where we found the cell phones. Now what do I do with this? Okay, I've got it, it's actually in my browser on my phone. It's not very useful to me. I need to move it to Avenza. I'll go down here, tap that. If I need it to go somewhere, that's the Apple arrow to send. Tap it, and I can send it to any person, and send it to apps. Right there, it's copy to Avenza Maps. Tap that. Now loads it into Avenza Maps, and there's map 7S77. It says number 2 because I did have it on earlier. Maybe it's somewhere else on this list. Let me tap 7S77. There's my Gaia map. I mean my Sartopo map in Avenza. And now, actually, you can use this. You can be driving down the road. It'll follow you on the road like this. There's another road, you turn here, go up the road here. It'll geolocate you and follow you on this map. You can have it in this close. You can actually see where you're at in segment 28. We've used this before to say, okay, what's the boundaries of our segments? How do we know to stop and turn around and do our line search the opposite way? So I'm going to do that once more to show you. I'm going to delete. Have you delete it? Do I want to delete this map? Yes. Go to my email. Let's download another one. Let's download this one. So 380. It goes in my browser into the Sartopo web server where the deputy has left it, or Terry Cook has left it. There's a map for Cinder Pit. I'm going to move it to Avenza because it's not of any use to me here in the browser. And as soon as that browser goes away, or I lose cell contact, that will probably go away. Tap this Apple, you want it to go somewhere, where that to go. Over here, copy to Avenza Maps. It's loading it, and it's a 380A1 because right below it, I've already downloaded it. Click on it in Avenza, and there's your map. So that's why this is extremely useful. In fact, it is the only app that will do this that I know of. It's the only app, it's the only useful app to us that search and rescue can use to get maps from ICT. And as we start using Sartopo more within VSAR, we'll be able to easily make these PDF maps. And I'll show you that next week in the Sartopo class. And so we can actually send these maps to our members for areas that we might feel we need them.
Tim,
Okay.
I've got a comment.
Yep.
So for those that are on Androids, the download process into Avenza does work a little bit differently. And I'm doing this more from memory, but I believe that you simply you open your email up on your phone, on your Android phone, and save it to your downloaded areas on your phone. And then you actually open up Avenza. And on the maps, there's an option to, on my maps, to go to your downloaded maps essentially and bring it in from there. So it's a couple steps process, a little differently than the iPhone. And I will also second the comment that these are extremely valuable. On the Nicholas Rice search off of Sunset Point, I was able to have Avenza up on my phone, and it was very clear where the boundary line was, much clearer than on my handheld GPS because it was just more visible on Avenza. It was just more readable.
I really feel Avenza is an essential map for search and rescue. Okay. Okay, now let's exit Avenza and go into, see what our next one is. Motion X. So I hesitate to show this because I don't think it's going to be valid for us. We can't get it anymore, and the people that are actually using it already know how to use it. I'm going to show you the very basics. Okay.
Tim, that's a shame that Motion X is not available because it's really, really a nice mapping device for the iPad.
I know. I can't understand the developers why they didn't continue, because I agree with you. It's a wonderful app for forest roads, for navigating. It's not good for hiking on trails, but it's excellent for navigating forest roads.
I wonder if we can all provide some feedback to them, and if they get bombarded with enough people, they might continue to support it.
I think they've already made that corporate decision. They actually said they were going to continue the iPhone app, but that disappeared over the last week. So
Oh, it did. Wow.
we went away from it. So here's actually you'll recognize this map. This is the same Forest Service map as before. extremely useful for Forest Service roads. It was actually the base map for 4x4. And Mark, it's probably also for quad or Jeep posse. Here's map types. I have to download all these types. With Google Satellite, for example, there's already in Google Satellite. If I type this arrow, it'll geolocate me right here. There's my house. Okay. This up here means you actually have GPS, active GPS contact, and that globe is circling. So I'm not going to show you any more on this because I want to concentrate on apps that I think won't be going away.
Tim, I just checked on Avenza, and there is a requirement for a certain version of Android. So apparently my phone is too old to support it.
Okay, sorry to hear that. I know that.
Aren't you that old too, Bob?
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, you're doing good. I know people that don't have smartphones. They still have, flip phones are very good. They don't do these things though. So, yeah, so you might need to upgrade your phone if you want a Venza. Okay.
And I know also on the older iPads, if you didn't have I think you had to be up to iOS 12 or something in order for Avenza to work also. So if you had an iOS 9, it didn't work.
Yeah, these darn devices and darn software, they keep improving. And then we have to upgrade.
And they want more money.
Yeah. This is All Trails, okay? My view is All Trails is excellent for hikers with individual trails. I think it's of limited use for VSAR unless we know a subject is directly on a trail and we haven't been familiar with that trail before. Let me just show you what All Trails is like. Come on, there we go. Okay, we're still in motion X. I'll exit motion X. And by the way, I keep the VR app open on my phone all the time. I never close it. And that way I'm assured that any call will come in on the app for me. All Trails right there, okay. Okay, let's find some trails, Tim. You can see Avenza Maps had maps in its name, focused on maps. All Trails focuses on trails. And you can see, okay, here's top trails nearby. Sherman, Gardner, Sherman. Let's look at Gardner, okay? So I just click anywhere in that picture. Here's an excellent overview of Gardner Trail. Let's show more. Tells you about the trail. As I go down, I see a map of the trail. We'll expand that. I see a description. I see my weather, my UV index, my daylight. I can get reviews. So it's an excellent app for the hiker. Now let's look at view my map. Tap on view my map. Here's the Gardner Trail. The elevation you see. Imagine that probably, yep, that's geolocate yourself. Again, that's my house. That's where Gardner Trail starts. If you look at layers, you can get different maps. The All Trails map is actually a quite good one. It's their own company app. So you can see Gardner's labeled. You can see Legendary. You can see Drano, Last Frontier. So it has a lot of details about the trail that you selected, but also you've got maps of trails around you. So it is an excellent app. When we have the other apps like Gaia and Avenza, I haven't seen the use for this one yet. If I know a person was on Gardner Trail 1.2 miles in, I'd probably follow their coordinates on my GPS. If I wanted to familiarize myself with Gardner Trail, I would look at this. So I have it as a backup. But I haven't found myself using this for search and rescue.
Just looking at what's shown on the screen, this looks pretty out of date.
Is it? Okay.
Gardner Trail, we just rerouted the whole thing past year.
Right. And some of those trails they don't reflect the new trail system that they've put in.
Okay. Let me show you one other feature of this, and then I'll exit this because it's more important to spend some time on like Google Apps for you. Explore. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Browse by activity. Hiking. So I go hiking. There's 500 trails in our area. I'm going to go up here, go back. Let's see what they have for mountain biking. 399 trails that they characterize as mountain biking. Go back up here. Let's go off-road. Okay. 106 trails that they characterize as off-road. So it is useful for filtering like that. If I click on Schnebly, I get the same information. I get a map of Schnebly. And I could actually change, I'm going to go to all trails if I wanted to, which is probably the best map available here. So you see this is, again, an excellent map for individual trail or road basis. And again, I haven't found it useful in my search and rescue activities. Okay, so now let's go to the last app and demo of the afternoon. And we're going to talk about, and next week I'll talk about CalTopo in association with SAR-Topo. What we're going to do now is talk about use of Google Maps and Apple Maps. Depending on your system, Apple will use both Apple Maps and Google. And Google Maps is actually on CarPlay also, for those of you with CarPlay. When I used both of them, I found Google Maps to be having more details on forest roads than Apple does. Google Maps will have the forest roads, or Apple will not. Google will not have the forest road names though. They'll have more popular names. Instead of Forest Road 95 something, it'll have Sycamore Canyon Road as an example. These are the apps to use for car navigation. Don't use anything else in my view. All the other maps are either good for 4x4 trails, 4 surface roads, or hiking trails. I would not use any of those for car navigation because we have these. Now I'm going to show you an example. I think it's of where we would get coordinates from a deputy, and it may be a site that I'm unfamiliar with. I don't know how the heck to get there. It's an hour, 2 hours away. Now I need to orientate myself, and I'd like directions for my car. How do I do that? Here's an example. Okay, this was actually the Sycamore Canyon Ledge call out a week or two ago. When we got there, it was a stand down. Yeah, so call out, can you go? Deputy Schley, hiker Jacob on Sycamore Canyon Ledge at 12S, you see these coordinates. How do I get there? Okay, I could put this into my Garmin GPS easily, which I would anyway. But on my Garmin GPS, I have to zoom in, zoom out, see where it's at, what are the roads, and I can do it, but it's difficult. You can also put this into Gaia and find out where it's at, but none of those are going to route your car there. They're not going to help you drive there. So what I do is, so these are the coordinates from up here. I put them into my Garmin GPS because I'm going to want where the Sycamore Canyon subject is anyway on my GPS. And then I use that to convert to decimal degrees.
Tim, if I could just add one other comment.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that you need to put them into your GPS in order to do that, but also just be aware that on the Volunteer Rescue app, down at the bottom, there's a map and there's a coordinates converter, and you can actually type in the coordinates and it'll show you that coordinate in all the different systems. You can type it in an ATM.
Does that work well, Peg?
Yes, I've used it several times and it's been accurate.
Okay.
The only
excellent.
trick is that when you do enter it, you do the 12S, no space within that, 1 space, and you do not type in the leading 0 for the 04 whatever, for the easting coordinate. But I've used it multiple times and I verified it and it works great. So it's really quick when you want to get that.
This is, so you can do that on VR, and I'm going to practice now, Peg, with that. So I know that, how to do that.
Yeah, it's down at the bottom under map.
That's really, really helpful, Peg, because I've been doing it the hard way with what Tim's doing it. And
Right.
the way he's describing it is putting in my damn GPS and converting it. And that's a pain in the ass, excuse me, and it takes a long time.
Well, that's why I mentioned it, because I think it's another reason for people to be on using the Volunteer Rescue app anyway, which we want you on with that. And it's a really neat little feature.
As a change request, you might, if in a future release, if the coordinates that are sent out with the notification, if it could be automatically populate that conversion screen, it would be helpful.
No, I can't imagine that at all. There's multiple call outs going on simultaneously, and this screen is completely separate. You don't even need to be logged in to use this particular screen for the app.
I think we're still going to have to convert them with some software app, Bob.
Right.
Okay, so maybe next week's class, I'll do a demo of volunteer rescue and how to convert. For now, we'll use our Garmin GPS. And I agree with Bob, it's a long way, but it's better than doing it like a coordinate converter on the web. And I got to put it in my GPS anyway.
Right.
So in this case, these UTMs convert to these decimal degrees. And I just find Google or Apple will take degrees, minutes, seconds, but it's so hard to put those in. It's just better that we do decimal degrees. You can use the web Google Maps or the Google Maps app. I'm going to show you both. You can input decimal degrees as they come from your GPS. See, here's actually the GPS conversion of the UTM. North, 34.81. I go 41. 8141, I round up, we just do 4 digits. West 112, you put the west afterwards, the north afterwards, or the alternative is you don't put any N's or W's in, you have to remember to put a minus in front of it, it's minus 112. If you put in plus 112, you're going to end up somewhere in Singapore. This is how you get directions from your house to the coordinates, and then you can send them to your phone. And so let's demo that. I'm going to stop this. I'm actually going to go to the Google app. This is on the web. So this is maps.google, Google Maps. And this is what you come up with. This is the search bar right here. And I'm going to type in those, so find them. I'm going to type in the coordinates here. They were 34.2780. And that was north, I believe. Yep, north. Space 112.0541 north. Okay, then I click find it.
You got both of them north. You got to change that to W.
Thank you. Now I know you're paying attention. I did that on purpose. And there it finds the point. And the first thing you need to do is do what I did, is the common sense test on this. Well, there's the river, Sheep Gulch. Let me look at it by satellite. Let me go back to the map. Does this make sense? Let me zoom out. $34.
Just saw Bloody Basin Road when you zoomed over, when you moved the map to the right.
I got the wrong coordinates here, yeah. So these are wrong, that's why you always got to use the common sense and check yourself. I was reading another coordinate, 8141. North, 0541 west. Okay, now let's see where we go. It's a little better. Sycamore Canyon Road. Well, he's in Sycamore Canyon, that makes sense. I'm going to show you an example where the common sense test that I'm going to do later can save your butt a couple times. Yep, that looks right. Okay, so let me get directions to that. Okay, that's where the hiker's at. I want directions from my house. Okay, there's my house. There's directions to that where the hiker is. Now, okay, I want to transfer them to my phone. Okay, right over here, send directions to your phone. Click on that. I get 3 ways I can send directions to my phone because I'm signed up to in my Google account up here, TD Anderson or TD. It knows I have an iPhone 11. I can email it to my Gmail address or text to my phone. I'm just going to send it to my phone like this. Okay, so it's sent to Tim's iPhone. Now let's go and see what the heck's on my phone. So I'm going to stop sharing this and share my phone. Okay, there's my phone. Look what popped up on my phone. I have the Google Maps app on my phone. It notifies me that I have directions from my house to what it called Cottonwood Oak Creek Elementary District. I click on that. It opens the Google app. There's actually the directions. Okay, now I can say I can go to my car, my water, pack, and start. And it's going to lead me right to
Head
that
west.
Sycamore Canyon. Just telling me to head west, okay? So see, I found this to be tremendously useful in for those coordinates that I get by UTM, or sometimes they're set in decimal degrees, to go to areas that I've never been to before that are out in a desolate area. And this is how I can, I don't have to be looking at my iPad. I can actually have my car phone, or Bob with CarPlay. You can do this in Apple Maps with CarPlay or Google Maps with CarPlay. And I can navigate to this desolate place on 4 service roads with my car display.
Tim, I have a question.
Sure.
If you get a text from the deputy and it has the UTM coordinates in it, and you just click on those UTM coordinates right in the text, and it's on your phone, it will automatically go into Google Maps and direct you to that spot. Isn't that correct?
Well, let's do that. Go to text, yeah, messages. Here's one.
By the one on the bottom, the third one down.
See it?
Doesn't have the 12S in it, but you'd have to add that.
See, it thinks it's a phone number.
Right.
No, because those are not highlighted. The one at the bottom is. The two coordinates are highlighted at the bottom.
Let's go back to that. Okay, here's both of those, Bob? Like right here?
The one at the bottom, yeah, that one.
So I tap that area and it just picks one of them. So I haven't found that to be useful, Bob.
Okay.
Hey, Tim,
Yep.
I have cut those 2 coordinates and pasted them into Motion X before. Where you go into the UTM, I'll paste both of them and then just delete what I don't need.
Yep, that would work. Okay.
And that'll put it right into Motion X.
That'll work for Motion X. UTM doesn't work with Google Apps, Google Maps or Apple Maps.
Yeah. And now you can and put it into the volunteer rescue app that Peg was talking about, and it would convert them. Then you could, cut it from there.
That's possible. I'm going to check that out now that I know that. So.
Hey, Tim, this is Gary.
Yep, Gary.
As we discussed before, if you were to lose cell phone coverage on your drive over, what would you do at this point?
Go home.
I've never encountered that when driving, Gary. I've encountered it in the canyons and away from roads. I guess if you were driving on a 4 service road, which I have from pretty far areas, there is you might, towards the end of it, lose your Google Maps or your Apple Maps connectivity. You could.
Yeah, Tim?
That's why you have to have a backup, like have those coordinates, you know, put them into, be able to put them into, like Motion X would be a great one.
Okay.
I haven't really encountered that, Gary, as a problem yet.
I didn't.
Hey, Tim. Tim, this is Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
I don't, have you updated your navigation system to Apple Play or whatever it is?
In my Forerunner, I've upgraded to Apple CarPlay, yes.
Okay, I know like in my Forerunner, one of the options on my regular equipped navigation system is to go in there and key in lat long. So you can do that. I mean, if you would lose cell phone coverage, you could do that, and that will get you there as well.
I know Denise does that too. Denise,
I have never lost the cell phone coverage or had a problem with Apple CarPlay. I have upgraded my Forerunner with Apple CarPlay, and I have never had a problem with that, even through the canyons.
And Rick, you know, the reason I'm proposing this, so it's for car navigation, route, you know, turn by turn, road, highway guidance, there's really only two apps that will do that. The Google app on your phone, which is Android or Apple, or the Apple Maps, which is only Apple. And that way you don't need to rely on the display in your car. So this would work for nearly everyone that has older cars or older displays, you know, versus new displays. That's why, you know, this is it's a reliable system. It doesn't rely on your car display. I would like to learn how to put in lat long into like Forerunner, you know, latitude, because I know you do it. I know Denise does it. I can't find it on mine right now.
I have it on mine, and you can do it, but it is a slow process.
The question was, if you lose cell phone coverage and your cell phone's not working, that's the way to get around that.
Yep, that would be. Mm-hmm.
Tim, I didn't think that once you started your navigation that you were dependent upon cellular coverage. I thought you were only dependent upon the GPS coverage.
You know, Bob, I think you're right, because I can actually turn off, my cell coverage and it still uses GPS. Yeah. Thank you, Bob. That's the answer. So Gary, that's the answer. You don't need cell coverage because your phone, and it's actually the way on the iPads too. We have iPads with no cell service and it just uses the iPad GPS chip.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob, for reminding me of that. Perfect.
This is Tom. I've had Google Maps ask me if I want to download the route, and I believe also applying the map itself. So I think it's an option that you can request to, and actually maybe even select, if I remember, the area you want. I think it's for the map, I guess. Maybe it's the route is saved, but not necessarily the map.
Okay. I do know that Bob Kinney's got the right answer. You don't need a saved map with either Google or Apple Maps. Okay, now, so what I just showed you is a super cool way that I found to navigate with your phone to a place that you've never been before. But we got to tell you one thing that I want to tell you is you have to bundle it with common sense. I'm going to go through another example for you to show you that there's caveats to this. We're at 3:30, we're at our time, so this is a bonus. If any of you need to go, please go. But this is something critical that I found that I wanted to share with you. So the Google Maps use is wonderful, the apps that we have to find your way to a place that you've never been before. But let me show you what you need to be aware of. So you need to bundle the Google Map app with the Common Sense app in your head. And let me show you. So this was the Verde River, the Charles Verde River call out. This is from Adam. This is for VSAR 4x4 navigators. Meet at Highway 260 in Fossil Creek. Subjects are stranded at those roads and those coordinates. We'll be crossing the river at Childs to pick them up and bring them. So I converted those coordinates from the UTM to the the decimal degrees, and I got this. I thought, well, that's north of Flagstaff. I didn't think Verde River was there. And I checked myself about 5 times. Where did I make my mistake? Where did I put in the wrong numbers? And it kept coming back to Flagstaff. So after I convinced myself, after checking 5 or 6 times, because I didn't want to be wrong myself, I said, Adam, you might want to double check those coordinates you sent out. I placed those coordinates north of Flagstaff. After a few minutes, this came back. Should be 043, 0953, fat fingers or something. So we all make those type of mistakes, but you wouldn't have known that unless you kind of like double check, use the common sense app in your head. So now when I can, but then here's the next kicker. Okay, here's the next caveat. So then I took the correct coordinates right here as they came from Adam, converted them, and we're actually going to go to Google and show you where those take you. Just a second here, okay? So I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint. Let's go to Google Maps. And this is our previous search. Click on the X, say, I want to do it again. And now what I'm going to do is put in the coordinates, converted coordinates for the child's area subjects. And that was 34, 35, 11 in, and 112, no, it's 111, 7508. So let me just double check those. 34, 35, 11 north, 111, 7508. Okay, so this is going to take me to the child's area, so I know how to navigate there down Fossil Creek Road. Okay, that looks good. I know it's a FR 7. It's called Dugas Road rather than 68D or G. Let me zoom out. Is that next to the river? Oh, yep, there's Verde River. Yep, that must be it. Okay, let me get directions. Everything's cool. Good, I can get there. Okay, choose starting point, 3172.
The only problem with that, Tim, is that we were told to meet up at 260 and not go down from Dugas Road. We came in from Childs.
That's right. I'm just using this as an example. Okay, Peg. So we would never drive there, but I want to say, hey, I want to know where it's at. How do I get there? Assume this is not that exact style church.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's going to take me 3 hours and 8 minutes to get there. That does not make any sense. Okay. And then I start looking at it, going deeper, why is this? What's wrong? And I keep going, let's look at it closer. Hey, there's Verde River and there's the crossing. So Google knows that you're not supposed to cross the river. So it doesn't take you that way. The 4x4s, we had the same coordinates, but the 4x4s went in this way. And the reason I'm showing you this is this is another common sense thing that you need to use common sense when you use Google. If you're going to use it to go somewhere, check it, make sure it makes sense. In this case, Google says, well, cars can't go this way. I'm going to take you this way. So
that's probably where how those idiots got there in the first place.
It is exactly how those idiots got there, yes. And as far as I know, their Honda car might still be somewhere in here, probably. Yeah. So
that's still there at that intersection because they had a flat tire.
They were going to go in with a 4x4 the next day, as far as we know, but that was up to them. So the lesson here is Google Apps works wonderfully for getting you to areas that you haven't been to before. It'll provide you car guidance, but you got to pair it, bundle it with the common sense app in your brain, and double check things. Say, hey, does it make sense the way it's taking me? Because first the coordinates you needed to double check. So I put the coordinates and say, okay, exactly where are those people, and where will we be going after we meet Adam at 260 and Forest Creek Road, just for my familiarity. And then I noticed that, hey, they went to Flagstaff, And so it's like we double check each other. When we have a Garmin, we say, okay, what's your route and your bearing? This is a way of double checking ourselves on the coordinates before we go out on an extended trip. And the other thing is use your common sense fact check when Google tells you to go a certain way. Don't blindly obey it. Okay.
We all let Adam know that there was something wrong with the coordinates because we all knew we were going to the Fossil Creek Road, which was not north of Flagstaff. So we all had a good meeting point for that.
Did you, Peg, did you tell him that when you met him at 260?
Yes, yeah, we all knew. Alan and I talked about it, and we said, yeah, we know we're going to Fossil Creek, we're going to Childs. Those coordinates are clearly wrong. So let's go to the meeting point. Had it not been something we were aware of, we would have contacted him.
Yeah, that's right. And in this case, there's a fail-safe because Adam told you to meet at 264.
Yes.
But in
And
another
we were going to Childs to cross the river. So we knew, and we were familiar enough with that to know that those coordinates were bad.
That's right. And so everything would have been okay on this one. I was using this as just a recent example.
Yep, absolutely.
Google would take you the wrong way. The wrong place.
For sure.
Both the wrong place and the wrong way. Okay.
Or if you weren't familiar with it, you would have had a problem too. If you didn't know where it was, you might have started heading that way.
So main message, Google app is great. Bundle it with a common app in your head, common sense app in your head.
Tim, my only comment on that is that it is a really good habit for Adam to get into when he sends out coordinates to give approximate directions to where he wants to meet, because it's a double check on those coordinates because it's so darn easy to transpose a number in a coordinate and screw everything up.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so that's the end of the Nav Apps training. Thank you for your attention so far. We went about a couple minutes over, but I hope you learned something. Again, this is not detailed overview of each app. It's just a high-level overview of how I found best to use them in search and rescue. And each of you will find additional ways to use these apps for yourself. My view is the only two apps I really need, three apps I need on my phone is Gaia or Gaia, probably Gaia, Avenza, and Avenza only for downloaded maps, and then whatever you choose to use, Google Maps or Apple Maps for your car navigation. And when I look at the, let's pull up the apps I have on my phone again. These apps, Gaia is super useful. Avenza is super useful. This is the app for my 4x4 navigation. I think Google is the best one because it's got the most detail on the more isolated Forest Service roads. Apple works excellently. It just doesn't have as many details on the Forest Service roads. And I'll talk about Colorado next week. So that ends what I had put together for training. Do you have any questions?
Tim, one thing. Before the class today, I went out to see if I could get Motion X GPS, and I couldn't, obviously. There was something else called Motion GPS. And when I downloaded that, it says Motion GPS has been discontinued and you have been upgraded to Gold Star Connect at no additional cost. I have no idea if Motion X and Motion GPS are related or not. Anybody know? Maybe?
It doesn't appear so. Looks like different vendors.
Did you just search for Motion? I'll bet it could be that it's available for Android because you have Android, right, Rick? I think so.
I'm sorry, Android, yes, from Google Play Store.
I searched Motion on iPhone. I don't find anything in the App Store. So I don't think it's the same one.
I didn't find anything either when I searched.
By the way, I might add, Tim, that those with Android phones can get Android CarPlay on their Forerunners also. It's not just Apple CarPlay because you can convert your GPS to Android Play.
Okay. Any other comments or questions before we end the meeting?
Tim, take a look at Trail Forks and let us know what you think. It's a lot more up to date. It's got all of the trails in the Western Gateway area, including the new dropout trail.
Let me see if it's actually on my phone. Yep, I see it. I see the app. Okay. I'll check that out. Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, I hope this was useful for you. I just wanted to, I thought this is, I learned a lot over the last several years putting these together, and I just wanted to share what I had learned, what works and what doesn't work, and how to use it in search and rescue. So thanks very much for your attendance.